For his efforts in resolving conflicts around the world, President Martti Ahtisaari received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2008. He had come a long way since he was a little boy, displaced from his home when the Soviet Union invaded his hometown and left him and his mother wandering from household to household to avoid the horrors of war. It was his personal experience that eventually gave him the desire to promote peace around the world and made it his life's mission. An experience that led to a career path in the government and the foreign ministry that gave him the skills for diplomacy and negotiations.
So what do you see as your role as a negotiator? For example, if, like you said, if both parties, neither of them want peace, where and how can you come in and try to bring the two sides together and find some common ground?
First of all, I have been very uneasy over the years when I read any academic arguments about mediation texts. They say that the mediator has to be neutral. I totally disagree, because if you are neutral, you easily end up in a situation where nothing moves, because mediator has the responsibility. That's why we have mediation processes that last for years and nothing comes out of them. I have said that I would rather describe the mediator's role as an honest broker. You have to treat both in a very honest manner and see. You have to make a judgment call very often that what is that you should accept from the demands of the parties. If you would be neutral, you wouldn't do that, because there are different things that are important to different parties. If you want, I can elaborate a little bit from Aceh. It was important, for instance, for Indonesian government that Free Aceh movement fighters should be disarmed. We got the agreement on that, and there was a mechanism of how the monitoring should take place. And it was very important that Indonesia asked few of the ASEAN countries, I think there were 5 countries there. And then I proposed that how about the EU countries, another regional organization. They said fine. I was very pleased that Indonesia recognized that it was politically and economically good to have use this also to have a closer ties with EU. No, it worked, and the monitoring was done extremely well, and friendship were established with people who came from ASEAN countries and EU countries. But then, and I said that we will never be party to any monitoring, because non-governmental organizations should not get involved, because the parties can be much more difficult if the governments are not there. They behave much better. I know it from my own past that they behave much better, and that's why we didn't have anything to do with the monitoring when final agreement was reached here. We were helping the process force. We were involved in 7 years after that. Now then, from CAM side, they wanted the military to finish all the law and order functions, the police functions, that police should take care of those. It was agreed. And so there you see that different things were important for both parties. And you have to try to then help to get agreement on those. Then, for instance, issue like how many, because when military's role in law and order was ending, except in an exceptional situations, if those were to happen, which haven't, thank God, happened. It was also then very important that one follows these things, and I'm very pleased that it has functioned extremely well.
Were there your experience in Aceh as a mediator, as a negotiator, were there any elements that you could actually use in future negotiations with?
I'm sure both Indonesian government and those from the Aceh side who participate, definitely we all learn. You learn from every. I have a philosophy that when I wake up in the morning, I say to myself that, Martti, this is the first day of your life. And what interesting things might happen today, and what can I do? Interesting things with my colleagues. Because you have to have that sort of intellectual curiosity, otherwise you are useless. You have to grow and learn, be prepared to accept that there's always something new you can learn. And I think this was a very important process, because it helped Indonesia to get a role in the region. Now Indonesia is well known. They have successfully done this negotiation process in Aceh, and they can use their expertise now in the region, which they are doing.
And a great deal of optimism, I'm sure. I mean, were you optimistic when you first
I'm a born optimist. I say
yes,
that
this will happen, peace will.
Yes, no, because I say that I said in my Nobel speech that every conflict can be solved, and I firmly believe in that. Not so that I can solve that, and sometimes not even the parties alone. We very often need outside forces, main powers in the world. I would say that you need many of the permanent members of the Security Council to help. We have seen now how little they have been able to help in Syrian conflict, for instance. But they have a special responsibility. In case of Kosovo, for instance, there was a contact group where there were Americans, British, French, Germans, Italians and Russians. And they were of great assistance to me throughout that. I wouldn't have been able to do anything without their support. In the end, they didn't all agree. But that had nothing to do with Kosovo. It had to do with bilateral relations between Russia and United States worsening. And they decided to be difficult in Kosovo. But it had nothing to do with Kosovo.